Last year at a school function, my 4-year-old daughter embarrassed me in front of an entire crowd of parents. She refused to leave the stage area while everyone was watching. I stood there smiling through my teeth, but inside my head, I could already hear the voices of my forefathers saying, in our days, one slap would put an end to this nonsense. But the problem was,
Lexi, come on, let's
I
go
am
back to the
trying to
tent and sit
practice gentle
down.
I want
parenting
to
by
stay here
being
and
mindful,
dance.
not overreacting, being sensitive, emotionally aware, and demure. But if there is one thing I have learned, there is nothing demure about parenting a 5-year-old. I was boiling from the inside while wearing the most plastic smile on my face. The smile was so hard that my face hurt. That moment right there, perfectly captures my struggle, trying to practice gentle parenting in a modern world while still holding on to the African upbringing that taught us to be proud of who we are as Africans. Welcome to my struggle with gentle parenting the African way. A story by Relatables by Obangaber, where I share my parenting struggles, lessons, and little victories. Parenting has always been one of those subjects where everyone seems to have an opinion. In recent years, a new conversation has emerged, especially online: gentle parenting versus traditional African parenting. In many African homes, parenting has long been associated with discipline, authority, and respect. But the modern world is introducing new ideas about empathy, emotional intelligence, and open communication between parents and children. For many African parents today, especially those raising children in a rapidly changing world, the question is no longer which parenting style is right. The real struggle is figuring out how to balance both without losing the values we grew up with or the emotional awareness we want for our children. When we talk about parenting, gentle parenting and the African style of parenting, which is considered the traditional way, seem to be on completely opposite sides. They really seem to contrast each other. Before I gave birth, I strongly criticized the African style of parenting, and when I looked at kids who were presented as gently parented, I was skeptical about having children. But then my daughter came, and I really had to pick a side. The problem was that I couldn't. Both sides were just too extreme for me, so I decided to do both. That's when I realized that a lot of African parents in my generation today actually do both. They gentle parent most of the time, and when it's required, the African parenting style jumps in. Don't get me wrong, it's not like African parenting is all violence and trauma, but it seems sometimes distant, with little affection or intimacy between the parent and the child. In a typical African home, the parent is always right, and the child is always wrong. This makes a lot of us struggle with confidence, and some of us, like me, treat interview panels like African parenting. The moment I reach in front of the panel, fear consumes me, and the things I know suddenly disappear. I forget everything that I know. In a typical African home, you don't look straight into the eyes of your elders, especially when you are believed to be wrong and even when you are right. The perception is still the same, as this is considered impolite and inappropriate. You are not permitted to speak when your elders are speaking, or you are considered a disrespectful child. Children are not considered as friends by parents, especially at a young age. You are the child, and they are the parent. Your opinion is rarely welcome. To me, African parenting sometimes felt like a gateway to raising traumatized adults with no confidence and low self-esteem. Adults who do not know how to process their emotions. Gentle parenting, which I am not an expert in either, used to look like lazy parenting to me. You just let your children have their way. They are screaming in public, and you simply mind your business and allow them to scream as loud as they want. You go with them to a supermarket and they start throwing a tantrum. You kneel down and beg them, and when they refuse to understand, you run crying to a therapist. To me, gentle parenting looked like a gateway to raising bad-mannered, entitled, and immature adults. Now you need to know that most of the knowledge I had about gentle parenting stemmed from movies, social media, and the news. And we all know that most videos we watch do not present the full context surrounding the actions. Social media has a way of twisting stories to meet audience interests or trending social. When I had daughter, I had an idea of how exactly I wanted to raise my child. There was no prior discussion or agreement about the parenting style I would use. Something about my motherly intuition and instincts informed my parenting style. Every parent, or at least most parents, has a picture in their minds of what they would like their children to grow up to become. That picture determines a lot about how you choose to raise your child. I chose to do gentle parenting with a sprinkle of African parenting for flavor. I wanted my daughter to be my friend, and I consciously decided that I would build a close relationship with her that made it easy for her to openly ask me anything and everything. I believed that I could not raise my child exactly how I was raised because that style might only work about 10% of the time today. My daughter is growing up at a very different time and age. The environment has changed, the people have changed, systems have changed, and policies have also changed. So I feel that to prepare my child for the world, I need to parent her based on the world today. Hopefully that will help her navigate tomorrow with a little more ease. At the same time, I know I cannot achieve 100%, no matter how hard I try. Parenting did not come easily for me because I often did not know whether what I was doing was the right level of gentle parenting or whether I was spoiling or enabling her. Then the guilt that followed the African style of parenting made me feel like the worst mother to ever exist. I do thank God, though, for my child. The angels in the babies department clearly gave me the right child, because they already knew something of these things would be a great struggle. And how do you teach your child confidence when you do not have confidence in yourself? How do you teach your daughter to have self-esteem when yours is very low? How do you teach your child to express and process their emotions when you are still struggling to process your own? I didn't see anyone around me practicing gentle parenting. Instead, my system had been programmed with African parenting styles from how I was raised, the way I saw the surrounding communities raise their children. Unfortunately, what you experienced growing up shows up automatically in your parenting until you become very self-aware and intentionally start doing things differently. I will admit that I probably went overboard in some areas and didn't do enough in others. I remember when my daughter was still a baby, from 1 month old until she was 2 years old. I had a rule for all my caretakers. Every time my daughter was pooping, she had to be embraced until she was done, and then her diapers had to be changed immediately. Seeing her pooping always made me feel like she needed a hug, and that's exactly what I gave her until she turned 2 years old. Every time she does something that would normally make me shout, I must think quickly to find an alternative way of handling the situation. But there are days when my brain feels too slow and overloaded. I overreact because it is a struggle to keep up. Then I immediately regret it. Now I'm left feeling mad at her for making me shout or spank her, and I'm mad at myself for overreacting. There was a day she did her homework and misspelled a word. When I was going through her work, I called her and told her she had made a mistake. I said it in a way that was already opening the door to anger or shouting. She came and looked at it and said, "Yeah, that's true, Mummy. I made a mistake." I replied, already getting annoyed, "Yes, you made a mistake." Then she replied, "It's okay. Mistakes happen sometimes." Remember, I was trying to handle this the African way, but her reply shocked the African parenting in me so much that I became speechless. I could not believe she had just said that, because my brain was not ready for gentle parenting. I couldn't think of a comeback. The gentle parenting version would have said something like, "True, mistakes sometimes happen, but you still need to be careful because sometimes a simple mistake like this, which could have been avoided, might cost you more than you imagine." But that didn't come to my mind at that moment, because it seemed that the only response my brain had prepared was anger. Last year, we went to attend a school function of one of my nieces together with my daughter. By this time, she was 4 years old. But you see, my daughter is the type who does not misbehave in public at all. She doesn't rebel or throw tantrums in public. I always believed we have an understanding. She is the type who goes to the supermarket and doesn't cry for anything. Any time she sees something she likes, she will tell me, "Mummy, when you get a job and make money, can you buy for me that, please?" She has been like this for as long as I can remember. The moment you tell her something, she heeds to it immediately, without hesitation or defiance. So to say I was very unprepared for this version of her that would show up from nowhere is an understatement. It shocked me to my core. My niece's class was presenting, and the parents were so excited, so some got up and went to appreciate their children with money during their performance. Context: in my country, though I'm not sure if it happens elsewhere during school functions where parents are invited, it's common for a proud parent to jump up during a child's presentation, run to the stage, and gift the child some money. I didn't want my niece to be left out, so I got the only money I had on me and went and gifted her with it. Obviously, my daughter followed behind me. When we reached in front, we completed the gifting and we needed to come back and sit. My daughter refused to come back. She wanted to remain in front with the children performing "ah, ah." I tried pulling her gently because all the parents were now at this point looking at us, because we were standing in the right in front of them. She refused to move. Ah. My brain was like, "Madam, what is this new behavior of yours? What is our bundle of joy doing again?" My brain could not process it. I succeeded in pulling her with a wide, fake smile on my face. I was boiling with anger. To worsen it all, when we sat down, the MC thought it wise to make a mention of her in reference to what had just happened. At this point, I wanted the ground to open and swallow me. In my head, I could already hear the voices of my forefathers saying, "In our days, one slap would end this drama." I was furious, but I sat down under that tent and first processed what had just happened. She didn't realize I was mad at her behavior, so she asked me if she could go to my niece's changing room, where she was with her classmates. I said sure, so she ran off. After about 10 minutes, I was already getting over the incident when I stretched my neck and I saw her without her clothes on. She had removed her shorts and shirt, including her shoes, and just remained walking around with her body stockings. Remember, we are at a public function. Something told me in my head, "You have failed as a parent." Now that voice dictated my next move.
To be continued.